Hey guys, welcome back to another review. Today we'll be covering Maya by Lamzu. This is Lamzu's first ever glass pad release, and we'll be going over the specs as well as my personal thoughts and feelings on it. Starting off with the surface, the Maya leans towards the smoother side of glass. It isn't buttery smooth like the Hana, but it also isn't sit true in the middle of the road when it comes to texture. I'd say it's leaning towards the fully smooth end of the spectrum, just without that completely buttery feeling the Hana has. There also isn't a strong sense of texture coming through the skates. It lets the glide feel consistent and smooth. Also, throughout all this testing, I'll be using Ghost Guide Psycho and Pros. When it comes to speed, I put this pad in the balance category, leaning towards speed. I wouldn't say it's like ultimate speed, something like the Zane. It doesn't quite push fully into that full speed category, but it is also faster than your regular balance pad, something like the Polarity. When it comes to the stopping power, it is on the smoother side, so you do lose kind of that natural stopping assistance you get from more of a textured surface. It still stops when you want it to, but it can feel a little slippery, especially during like micro adjustments in games, tech FPS games like CS and Val. I also want to cover the Maya is coated. It's using their Lamzu's Hyper Nano coating, which is meant to improve smoothness and stopping power. For this next section, I did want to pull out my sleeve because we're going to be covering skin stick and sleeve usage. Here we have the key boot. When it comes to skin stick and stuff like that with the Maya, I wouldn't say it's an outlier on coated pads. It feels kind of I don't think it's standout. It does have some skin stick. I would say it honestly feels more like an uncoated pad's kind of stickiness. I do notice stickiness on my wrist and on my fingers when I'm using a sleeve, and then without a sleeve, of course, you feel it on your entire arm. I tested several sleeve brands. We have Kibu and then ESP Tiger along with Pulsar. When it comes to any full skin contact, I did run into some issues with skin stick, especially on the side of my hand, as I said. I strongly recommend using a sleeve for this mouse pad. And if skin stick around the wrist or fingers bother you when you're using a sleeve, I would highly suggest trying one that has a thumb hole in it so it covers your entire area right here. If you have any issues otherwise, I would just say it is what it is. But it also could be humidity issues with your house or anything like that. But from my experience, this isn't the best when it comes to skin stick, and I do hope to see that improved in the future. So the next thing I want to cover is pretty simple, just the size and thickness. The Maya comes in at 1.5 millimeters, which I'd consider the minimum safe thickness for a glass pad. Anything thinner than that is kind of running the risk of bending or flexing when you're holding it. It also has the 2.5D rounded edges. They're great. Obviously, it's really nice if you have your wrist on the pad, like right on the corner, or your arm. It doesn't feel like it's cutting into it. It's not super sharp. I would say it's not the best edges I've ever had in my life, but it's an edge. When it comes to size, 490 by 420, the industry standard. I know some of you guys don't like 490 by 420 pads. They're too small. Some of y'all prefer 500 by 500, but the Maya comes in 490 by 420, which is industry standard. So the next thing I wanted to break into is the base. It has a really pretty design on it. It has Lamzu obviously written on it. I like these little, I guess, X's. I don't know what else you consider them. They look really good. And then obviously this pad sticks really, really well. It's not going to go anywhere. You don't have to worry about it. It's a great silicone backing. It's kind of all you can cover on a base. Besides that, I'd say it's a pretty stellar experience. Breaking into the next thing, gaming, kind of my input and kind of how I felt when I was playing. So when it came to that, during CS2 Deathmatch, the speed felt great overall, but I did notice some issues with stopping. It felt due to the smoother texture. I just was struggling to have some micro corrections. That plus it's a balancing speed pad, so it's going to be pretty quick. I mean, way quicker than a cloth pad at speed, for example. Where this pad really shines is in the tracking games like Overwatch and Rivals, where you're able to just have smooth tracking. Consistency is key. You want to have great tracking. Following opponents feels excellent, but in tech FPS you might have some issues with that micro adjustments, and that's something I should cover. Obviously, just not having much texture plus a balanced lean speed pad, you're just going to have some issues with it. These types of pads just don't have as much stopping power as something that's highly textured and slower, for example. I don't think it's something that should stop you from getting the pad. I think it's still great. I think that it's something that it depends on the person. Some people like really balanced lean speed pads that are smooth, and they just like having the raw feel and not worrying about stopping power. They can control their mouse perfectly. Some people can counter it with control skates. It's honestly up to you what you want to do, but that's my personal opinions, and that's kind of how I feel about it. So for the first comparison I wanted to break into, we have the Maya versus Polarity. When it comes to texture, the Polarity does have a beat. It has a bit more texture. It's just a bit of a higher feel, or a better feel when it comes to it. Skin stick wise, obviously I think the Polarity blows it out of the water when it comes to feel. Speed wise, honestly the Maya feels a little faster. Like I said, it's more leaning towards the speed side of balance pads. It's a little faster. It's a little more squirmy due to it being smoother. When it comes to these two pads, I feel like they're different in the sectors of if you want something a little tiny bit faster and smoother, then I would recommend going with the Maya. If you want something a little bit more textured, a little bit more towards true to balance, then you go with the Polarity. Besides that, the edges I would say are a little better on Polarity, but thickness, stuff like that, they're all going to be kind of relatively the same nowadays. They're all very great when it comes to those things. You don't really have issues. It's not like an SPO4 that's really thick. They're all thin. They all have good edges. They all have good bases. But it's mostly up to you what surface you prefer. Do you like something that has more smooth balanced, leaning speed, or do you want something more a little bit textured, true balanced? A good pick for comparisons I thought would be the Minami, because it's also very smooth, and as you guys know, it's more towards the speed side. When it comes to texture, I can tell a little bit more smoothness on the Minami. They are very similar. Like with glass, a lot of it's very smooth, and a lot of it's kind of hard to differentiate which one's which, or tell if there's much of a big difference. But the Minami is a little bit smoother, and the Minami, I would say, is a little bit faster. It's not huge, but the Minami is on the slower side of the speed category, so not too surprising, comparing it against a balanced leaning speed pad, obviously. When it comes to everything else, obviously, I think skin stick wise, they're pretty similar. Besides that, I think they're both great. I thought for the last review, it'd be good to bring out the good old trusty SPO4, because a lot of the questions when I do pad reviews and stuff like that is the pad better than SPO4? What do you think? And I'm going to kind of give you my thoughts. So the SPO4 is a bit more textured. It has that uncoated feel where it's a bit more, I guess, rough, raw feeling, which it's up to you whether you think that's good or bad. I personally don't like it, but it's to each their own. When it comes to speed, I would say the SPO4 is slower, but this is also the Twin Sora version, which has been known to be a little bit slower than the rest of SPO4s. So it kind of sucks that I can't give you all a direct comparison just because of that. But I do want to say if you have the Twin Sora, the Maya is definitely going to be quicker. If you have a normal SPO4, I don't have one on me unfortunately right now, but from my past experience, I would say they're pretty similar. They're both around the same speed, and then this is a bit smoother. So if you want a little bit smoother, you want updated edges and thickness and stuff like that, and you want about the same speed, I would go with the Maya. It's a good upgrade, and I think you won't regret using it. Now I want to break into my overall thoughts about the pad, my conclusion, stuff like that. Overall, the Maya offers a lot of standout good features. It has the solid thickness, comfortable edges, a great base, good artwork. Obviously it's not Gunnar, so you can't complain about that. It does fall a bit short in a few sectors. I think that the skin stick can be improved, especially since it's coated. Along with that, I wish that it had a little bit more stopping power. Well, we got a friend here for the conclusion. For the tech FPS players, you might run into some issues with the stopping power and stickiness. Besides that, if you play mainly tracking games or prefer a smoother balanced surface, this pad's a great option. The tech FPS is your main focus and you rely heavily on micro adjustments. The lack of texture might be something to consider, but at the end of the day, it's up to personal preference and what you like. Honestly, I think it's a good pad for its sector, as I said, and I don't think it's something you'd regret purchasing. I hope you guys enjoyed my review, and have a good one.